of fourth grade math. This is the last video we're going to do for multiplication this week, and next week we're going to start division. So excited for that. You guys have been doing awesome at the standard algorithm, or the old-fashioned way of doing multiplication. The work that you've shown me and Ms. Keller has been amazing, so keep it up. So far we've done a 2-digit by 1 digit, and then a 4-digit by 1 digit. Now we need to know what to do when we have a 2-digit by 2-digit. So an example of a problem like that would be 34 times 23. And we're going to keep stacking it the same way we did on the other ones. Remember, a lot of the time we saw it and it was written sideways like that, so we're not going to do that anymore. You're going to start off the process the same way as we did before. You're going to start in the ones place, just like we did for multiplication. So this should be a familiar step. So you're going to do 3 times 4 is 12, but you can't put the 12 down here. You can only put the ones. So you put your 2 up there and your 1 up there. And you do 3 times 3 is 9. And now you add that 1 above, and you get 10. But again, you can't put a 10 in the spot. You can only put the 0 there, and then the 1 goes to the 100 spot. So you get 102. That's what it would be if you had 3 times 34, would be 102. Now we need to know what we're going to do with this 2 here. So what is the value of this 2 again? When we think of what the value is, you guys would tell me it's 20. So remember earlier in the week when I was saying we have to be very careful about lining up our place values? We wouldn't want to multiply something by 20 and then put it in the 1 spot. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to put a 0 here, because we're not multiplying by any ones. So we put that 0 here. Now you're going to do the same steps as you did before with the ones, but you're just going to do it in the 10 spot instead. So you're going to start writing here. So 2 times 4 is 8. So we do 2 times 4 and it's 8. And we can't write it here because we had to put a 0 because it's the 20. So we'll put that 8 here. That's the same as saying 20 times 4 is 8. That's why it's over here. Next we do 2 times 3, which is 6. You don't use this one because this one was from the 12 over here. So now you're just doing 2 times 3 is 6, and you get 608. And then all you have to do is add them up together to get your total for the multiplication. So first we multiply, and then we add our pieces. So 2 plus 0 is 2. We get an 8 and 7 for 782. I kind of want to show you something cool about what you guys were doing earlier with the area model and how you guys were so close to doing this without knowing it. It's kind of tricking you, but I'm going to show you how close you were. So let's say we have our problem 34 times 23. When we had our area model, we used to break it up into 30 and a 4 and 20 and 3. I'm going to solve it real quick, just like the way you used to. So 20 times 30, put our 2 zeros down. 2 times 3 is 6. 20 times 40, 20 times 4, sorry, I put a 0 and an 8. 3 times 30, I'm just going to do my 0, and I have 3 times 3 instead for 9. And then 3 times 4 is 12. And instead of adding them all up one by one, I'm going to kind of show you a cool trick here. I'm going to add them up sideways like this. And I get 600 plus 80 is 680. And 90 plus 12 is 90 plus 10 is 100, plus 2 more is 102. Do those numbers look familiar at all? Yeah. So you can see all the different steps we skipped when you simplify and you do the standard algorithm. That was a lot faster than having to draw all this out, multiply them all individually, and then add them up. So right here, you skip right to this step of being able to add the 2 pieces together. That's why it's that much more efficient. Let's get back to doing a couple more problems of a 2 by 2 multiplication. Let's start with 53 times 42. Again, you're going to start the exact same way. So hopefully there's not too much of a glare there for you guys. You're going to start the exact same way you would have as if you're doing the ones. So we start with 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 5 is 10, but we can't put a 10 in a single digit spot, so I put my 0 here and my 1 in the 100 spot. And now we go over to the 4, or the 40. So remember it's in the 10 spot, so we have to put our digit here as our placeholder because we're not going to have any ones that we're multiplying. And we do 4 times 3 is 12. I can't put a 12 down here, so I can put my 2 and my 1. We're going to treat that 1 or that 10 that we carried up here just the same as if we were doing ones down here with our 2. So now I'm going to do 4 times 5, 5, 10, 15, 20, and now I'm going to add that 1 in again for 21. I can't put a 21 here, but I can put my 1 here and my 2 in the next spot. And then you just add them up. And you get 6 and 2. 1 plus 1 is 2 and 2. So 2,226. Let's do another one together just so you can have some practice. I'm going to say hit pause on this one. I want to see you guys do some practice on this one and see if you can get it, and then we'll do one more after that as an example to show you. And I might give you a little hint if you want to challenge yourself and do some bigger problems afterwards. So you'll have to stay to the end of the video for that. Let's do one more 2 by 2 multiplication problem. So my marker's starting to dry out. Let's see. Let's do 77 times 54. All right. This is where I'm going to have you do it on your own, and then I want you to see if you got the same steps as me. So go ahead and hit pause and come on back when you're done. All right, nice work. Hopefully you tried and you had some success. If you didn't, that's why I'm here. So let's go ahead and go and do our 2-digit by 2-digit multiplication. All right, so hopefully you remembered to start with the ones. And you do 4 times 7 is 28. So I put an 8 down here, and my 2 goes up here. 4 times 7 again is 28. That was kind of nice to have 2 together. But we need to do that 2. So 28 plus 2 is 30. So I put my 0 down here and my 3 over here. A little trick I like to do is when I switch to my 10 spot, I put my 0 here and I go look up here and I cross out any numbers that I use with my ones. That way I don't get confused and accidentally add them again. Hopefully that makes sense. I'll show you again if you didn't do that. So I crossed out my 2 when I added my 0 when I start my 10's multiplying spot. So 5 times 7 is 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. So I put my 5 here, and I put my 3 up here. See how it's helpful I crossed out my 2? That way I won't get them confused. Now I do 5 times 7 again, which is 35, because we just counted it. But don't forget that number, that 3 up there, Mr. B. So 35 plus 3 is 38. So I write my 8 down here because I can't put a 38 here. And my 3 goes here because there's nothing else to multiply. And then the last step is you add them up. So 8 plus 0 is 8. 0 plus 5 is 5. 3 plus 8 is 11. Can't put an 11 here, so I put my 1. Put it up here. 3 plus 1 is 4. So 77 times 54, after you do all the work, is 4,158. It's a lot quicker than the area model. If you ever wanted to double check to make sure that you were doing right, like let's say you had an assessment or you just wanted to double check, could you do the area model? Of course you could do the area model. That's a great way to double check. So if you're ever unsure on this one or you think you make a mistake, go back and double check. That's a great way to make sure that you get the right answer. All right, we're gonna do another one before I get to that little bonus thing at the very end for you guys. All right, I'm gonna say let's do 87 times 61. All right, go ahead and hit pause, work it on out, come back when you're ready. All right, welcome back. Hopefully you had success again. Let's go ahead and start our problem. I'm going to do it a little bit slower because this is the last one I'm going to do, so I'm going to make sure you have the steps when you're doing it. Excuse me. All right, the first thing we do is where we start with our ones, just like we did with the other problem. So I do 1 times 7 is 7, and that can go in my 1 spot. 1 times 8 is 8, and that goes in the next spot, the 10th spot. Now I'm switching. I had nothing to add, so I don't have to cross anything out. I didn't have any extra 10s or 100s I had to add up here. So 6 times 7, oops, I almost forgot. Hopefully you caught it. I forgot to add my 0 down here because this is actually 60. So I need to put that 0 down here to make it 60. Now I can do 6 times 7. Ooh, I never remember my 6 times 7, but I remember that 6 times 6 is 36. And I can add one more 7, and that gets me 42. So I put my 2 here. I can't put a 42 here, but I can put my 4 up there, and we'll use it after we do 6 times 8. 6 times 8. Ooh, we just did 6 times 7 is 42, so I need one more 6. So 6 times 8 is 48, but I need to add that 4. So 48, 49, 50, 51, 52. I can't put a 52 in my 100 spot, but I can put that 2 there. And I can put my 5 over here, but there's nothing to multiply, so I can just drop all the way down here. Last step is we add them all together. 7 times 0, or set, not times. That wouldn't work out very well. 7 plus, because we already did our multiplying part. 7 plus 0 is 0. 8 plus 2 is 10. I don't have any 1s here, so I'm going to put 0 here and put my 1 over there. 1 plus 2 is 3. And 5 plus 0 is 5. So 61 times 87 is 5,300. I made a mistake. I caught myself. This actually should be a 7 right here, because 7 plus 0 is 7, not 0. So our final answer is 5,307. If you caught that earlier, awesome job. Way to go. It's showing that you actually have it. If you didn't catch it and you were like Mr. B, sometimes going back to look at your work when you add them up is a good check on yourself to make sure you got it right. So I just want to say, before I get to the bonus part, this is a hard thing to do. You guys don't actually have to learn it in 4th grade yet, but I think it's a kind of a cool tool to use and practice over the summer, and hopefully it'll make some of the stuff in 5th grade a little bit more efficient for you. And we like efficiency because it means you have to use less brain power and you can save it for the harder stuff. So if you get stuck on this, you can talk to Mr. B or Miss Keller. Your parents will actually be really good at this too. Or you can contact me. I can send you some other videos. Sometimes it helps to have other people explain it to you. So there's some Khan Academy stuff like that. Or we can just work some problems together online through like a Google Meet if you want to. So get in contact with me if you would like to do that. All right, now I said I was going to go on to the bonus thing. And the bonus thing is, let's say we have like a a 341 times 214. This would be a 3 by 3 digit. And I'm just going to show you what you would do one time and just show you what we do when we start adding more digits down here when you multiply by bigger numbers. So you were going to start it the exact same way you would with a 2 by 1 or even a 1. You always start at the 1 spot. So 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 4 is 16. I can't put a 16 here, but I can put a 6. I can put a 1 up here. 4 times 3 is 12, but I can't forget about the 1, so it turns into 13. I can put a 3 here and a 1. Now I'm going to go to my 10 spot, so I need to make it look like it's a 10. Cross out the ones I used up top, and now I can start with my 10 spot. 1 times 1 is 1. Really important to be lining these up now. 1 times 4 is 4. And 1 times 3 is 3. If you notice, we got 3,410. And this is 341. If you were to multiply that by 10, you would get 3,410. And that's exactly what we did. We multiplied it by 10 by putting that 0 down here. And now we're going to go on to our 2. Some of you probably guessed already what you would do with the 2 or the 200 when we multiply the next step. If you thought or said out loud you would put 2 zeros down here because it's 200, you are absolutely right. And then you just do the same process we've been doing. 2 times 1 is 2. Make sure you're lining it up. That should be in the 200 spot. 2 times 4 is 8. That should be in my 1,000 spot. And 2 times 6, or 2 times 3 is 6. And that goes over here in my 10,000 spot. So when I add them up, and Mr. B didn't do an awesome job lining them up, so make sure you do it better. 4 plus 0 is 4. 6 plus 1 plus 0 is 7. 3 plus 4 is 7. Plus 2 is 8, 9. 1 plus 3 is 4. Plus 4 more. 4 plus 8, is 12. I can't put a 12 there, but I put my 1 up here, and now I'm adding again, is 7. So 341 times 214 is 72,974. Those are some huge numbers that you can now multiply. Again, you guys thought when I'm multiplying in the 10 spot, I have to cover my 1, so I start in the 10 spot. When I'm multiplying in the 100 spot, I cover my 1s and 10s, so I start in my 100 spot. That's the key, and then the second key is lining them up afterwards so you can add them up correctly. A little trick is to cross out those top things. And now you guys have a really efficient way to multiply big numbers. Imagine if you did this with an area model. It'd be a box that's 3 by 3. 9 squares. If you do 3 times 3 is 9 for the area. That'd be 9 different squares you'd have to add together. So you guys are now to the point where I know that you can add these up. So I'm going to hit pause here. If you have any questions, let me know. I know it was a longer video. It's a little bit harder concept, but you guys are going to rock it. Go 4th grade math.